Hello students, I hope you all are fine and safe. Now today we'll start up with lesson 4 in history, that is the Delhi Sultanate. We'll study this lesson in parts and we'll start with part A of the lesson today. So let's begin. So the heading of the lesson says Delhi Sultanate. So we'll start up with the meaning of the word Sultanate. Now Sultanate is the territory or a country ruled by a Sultan, and Sultan is also known as the ruler or the king. Now the Delhi Sultanate was established in late 1100s and the Sultan was a Muslim ruler. They defeated the Hindu armies in India and made Delhi its capital, and this marked the beginning of Muslim rule in India. The Delhi Sultanate was an Islamic empire based in India that stretched over large parts of Indian subcontinent for 320 years, that is from 1206 to 1526. During this period, India was ruled by a number of Turkish sultans. Now here you can see the picture of Muhammad Ghori. Muhammad Ghori was a Turkish invader who invaded and plundered India and conquered Indian territories and founded the Turkish rule in India. Now, after the death of Muhammad Ghori in 1206 AD, his Indian empire passed on to the hands of his viceroy Qutbuddin Aibak, as he had no successors. He later became the founder of the slave dynasty. The Delhi Sultanate was established by Qutbuddin Aibak in 1206 AD. Altogether, five dynasties from 1206 to 1526 had formed Delhi Sultanate. The Sultanate period was the duration from 1206 to 1526 CE, and in that period five dynasties ruled. They were the Slave dynasty from 1206 to 1290 CE, the Khalji dynasty from 1290 to 1320 CE, the Tughlaq dynasty from 1320 to 1414 CE, the Sayyid dynasty from 1414 to 1451 CE, and the Lodi dynasty from 1451 to 1526 CE. So we'll start up with the Slave dynasty, which started from 1206 to 1290 CE. Now this dynasty was also known as the Mamluk dynasty. Mamluk is an Arabic word which means owned. It also means slaves. Next we'll see what does a slave means. A slave is a person who is the legal property of another and is forced to obey them. Now on this map of India you can see the extent of slave dynasty. Now the rulers of this dynasty were slaves, and after the death of Muhammad Ghori, the Indian Empire passed on to the hands of Qutbuddin Aibak, who himself was the slave of Muhammad Ghori. Now here you can see the picture of Qutbuddin Aibak. Now Qutbuddin Aibak was the founder of the slave dynasty. He ruled from 1206 to 1210 CE. Now he was himself the slave of Muhammad Ghori. He consolidated his kingdom through matrimonial alliances with his rivals. He was known as the Lakh Baksh, that is the giver of lakhs. He was a great builder. He built the Qutub Minar and the Quwat ul Islam Mosque. He died in 1210 CE while he was playing Indian polo. Now in the next picture you can see the Qutub Minar and the Quwat ul Islam Mosque, which were made by Qutbuddin Aibak. Now here you can see the pictures of Iltutmish and Balban. Now these two were initially the slaves of Qutbuddin Aibak. Now the sudden death of Aibak left a void which the nobles filled by placing his son Aram Shah on the throne of Delhi. Now here you can see the picture of Aram Shah. Aram Shah was overthrown by Aibak's slave who later became his son-in-law, and he was Iltutmish. Now he was invited to occupy the throne in 1210 CE. His position was challenged from the very beginning since he had no hereditary claim over the throne. But Iltutmish proved himself a strong and efficient ruler. He conquered Malwa, Ujjain, Gwalior, Ranthambore, and brought the whole of northern India under his rule, and hence he had been called the real founder of the Delhi Sultanate. So let's see some of the achievements of Iltutmish. Now, as we know that he was a great ruler, he shifted his capital from Lahore to Delhi. He saved Delhi from the Mongol invasions and suppressed the internal revolts and consolidated his empire. He got his claims to throne approved by the Khalifa, giving legitimacy to his rule. The land revenue system under him was reorganized. He introduced the gold and silver coins known as tanka. He was a patron of art and architecture as he completed the Qutub Minar. Iltutmish was an efficient administrator. He divided his empire into iktas or provinces for good governance, and the iktas were administered by iktadars who maintained law and order. The next picture is of the coins issued by Iltutmish during his time. The next picture is of Razia Sultan. She was the daughter of Iltutmish. Iltutmish had nominated his daughter Razia as his successor because he did not think any of his sons were worthy enough to succeed the throne of the Sultanate. But the group of 40 powerful Turkish nobles called the Chehelgini did not approve of the nomination of Razia, as she did not allow the nobles to dominate her or influence her decisions. The nobles made his son Rukuddin Firoz succeed the throne of Delhi. Now here you can see the picture of Rukuddin Firoz. Now the new sultan proved unworthy and inefficient, so the nobles had to choose Razia as the new ruler in 1236 CE. So let's see some of the achievements of Razia Sultan. Now, when Razia Sultan came to the throne, there was chaos and disorder in the country. But, being an able ruler, she put the things in order. She was just, wise, and benevolent. She was brave and intelligent and had royal qualities. She used to transact business and regarded the welfare of her subjects as an essential duty. But some nobles did not like to be ruled by a woman, and they accused her of being too friendly to Yakut Khan, and some of the nobles under the leadership of Altonia rebelled against her. She won over Altonia by marrying him, but both were killed in the struggle against the rebels in the year 1240 CE. Now, after Razia's death, there was chaos in the kingdom, and to add to the troubles, the Mongols attacked Lahore and caused death and destruction all over the kingdom. In 1246, a few influential nobles raised Iltutmish's younger son Nasiruddin Mahmud to the throne. Now, here in the picture, you can see Nasiruddin Mahmud. He was just 17 years old and could not manage the empire, and hence he left the control in the hands of his father in law, Balban. Now here you can see the picture of Balban, also known as Ghiyasuddin Balban. Now Ghiyasuddin Balban was one of the slaves of Kutubuddin Aibak, and he was the father-in-law of Nasiruddin Mahmud. Now Balban came to power after the death of Nasiruddin Mahmud in 1266 CE. It was he who first realized that the prevailing weakness of the royal power was due to the secret schemes of the Turkish nobles. Thus, he weakened the power of the nobles by drawing a line of distinction between the sultan and the nobles. He tried to crush the powerful Turkish groups of nobles called the 40. He built a chain of forts on the frontier to protect the empire from Mongol attacks. He was most successful ruler among the slave kings. Now let's see some of the achievements of Balban. Balban reformed the army to increase its efficiency. He created an awe and respect in the mind of the people. He made the people and the nobles loyal to the crown. He put the administration in order. He checked the Mongol invasion successfully. He organized an efficient spy system. He strictly believed in the divine theory of kinship. That is, king is the representative of God on earth. And he followed the policy of blood and iron, which implied being ruthless to the enemies. Balban died of illness in 1286 CE. His successors were weak, they failed to preserve the kingdom, and the reign of the Mamluk rulers ended in 1290 CE. Next we'll study about the second dynasty known as the Khilji or the Khalji dynasty, which ruled from 1290 to 1320 CE. The Khalji or the Khilji dynasty was a Turco-Afghan Muslim dynasty which ruled large parts of Indian subcontinent between 1290 and 1320. It was founded by Jalaluddin Firoz Khilji and became the second dynasty to rule the Delhi Sultanate of India. In the next picture, you can see on the map of India the extent of the Khilji dynasty. Jalaluddin Khilji was the first ruler of the Khalji dynasty. He killed the last descendant of the slave dynasty and declared himself the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate at the age of 70 years in 1290 AD. Now here in the picture you can see Jalaluddin Khilji. The only important event of his reign was the raid by Alauddin Khilji on Devagiri in 1294 CE. Jalaluddin's nephew and son-in-law was Alauddin Khilji. Next you can see the picture of Alauddin Khilji. Jalaluddin wanted to congratulate his nephew over defeating the ruler of Devagiri, but his nephew Alauddin Khilji killed him and came to the throne in 1296 CE. Alauddin Khilji was known as the most powerful ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. Despite the fact that Alauddin was illiterate, he was an able soldier. He excelled in commanding the army. He expanded the territory of Delhi Sultanate to down south. He was also titled as the second Alexander. Next we'll study about the conquests of Alauddin Khilji over Gujarat and Rajasthan. We'll start with the conquest of Gujarat. Now, Alauddin had two generals, Ulugh Khan and Nusrat Khan. Now, Ulugh Khan was the brother and general of Alauddin, and Nusrat Khan was an Indian Muslim general of the Delhi Sultanate. Now, Alauddin sent Ulugh Khan and Nusrat Khan to invade Gujarat. They defeated King Karan Dev and plundered the state and returned with rich booty. They also brought with them Malik Kafur, a slave bought for 1,000 dinars from the port of Cambay. Now here you can see the picture of Malik Kafur. He was also given the name of Hazar Dinari. Later, Malik Kafur became one of Alauddin's trusted generals, and he conquered Dwar Samudra and Madurai for Alauddin. Now here on the map you can see Dwar Samudra and Madurai, which were conquered by him. Next we come to the conquest of Rajasthan. Now Alauddin had a long history of expeditions in the Rajput states. In 1301 CE, he captured the fort of Ranthambore. Now here you can see the picture of the fort of Ranthambore. Then he captured Chittorgarh in 1303 CE, and in the picture you can see Chittorgarh. Alauddin overran Jalore, which is a district in Rajasthan. Almost all the states in Rajasthan were forced to submit to him, but he did not annex these Rajput states. He conquered Malwa and also annexed it by bringing Malwa under direct rule. By 1305 CE, he became the master of northern India. Ujjain, Dhar, Mandu, and Chanderi all became parts of his empire. Next we come to Alauddin Khalji's conquest of Deccan and South India. During 1306 to 1311, Alauddin's general Malik Kafur defeated the Yadavas of Devagiri, Hoysalas of Dwar Samudra, Kakatiyas of Varangal, and the Pandyas of Madurai. He did not annex these kingdoms but released annual tributes from them. And here on the map you can see the conquests of Alauddin of Deccan and the South India. And here on the map you can see the extent of Alauddin Khilji's empire. Next we come to the administration of Alauddin Khilji. Now Alauddin was an able and efficient administrator. He made a study of the cause of revolts and initiated reforms for keeping control over the nobles. So now we'll study how did Alauddin administered. The gifts which were given to the nobles in the form of land and property were taken back by the government. The marriage parties and the drinking of wine in public were prohibited. An efficient spy system was organized. Taxes had to be paid regularly by the nobles. He tried to find out the causes of rebellions by the nobles in his court and came out with three reasons. That there was a lot of wealth with the nobles, they had a lot of social gatherings, and they were in the habit of excessive drinking. To maintain a strong army, Alauddin geared up his revenue system. Revenue for all the lands was refixed and collected strictly. The grains which were produced, they were stored in government granaries, and the system of chehra and dag were introduced. Now, chehra was a system related to the biometric information about the soldiers. It was a full description of each soldier, and it was done to prevent the system of deploying substitute soldiers. And dag was the branding of horses. It was a mark made on each cavalry horse, identifying it as royal or approved horse. This was to check the malpractice of changing royal or approved horses with those of low quality. And both these, chehra and dag, were the identification tools. Next, we come to the economic reforms of Alauddin. Alauddin maintained a huge army, and to meet his military expenses, he undertook various economic reforms. Like, he took steps to control prices and supervise the market. He fixed the prices of essential goods. Officers were appointed to keep a check on the prices, and due to strict checking, there was no cheating with weights. Whoever was found charging beyond the price limit was severely punished, and hence the traders could not overprice their goods. Next, we'll study about art and architecture during the reign of Alauddin. Alauddin was a great patron of art and architecture. Poets and scholars adorned his court. Amir Khusro and Amir Hassan were the most prominent among them. Next, you can see the picture of Amir Khusro. Now, Alauddin was a great builder. He built the famous Alai Darwaza near Qutub Minar. Now, here you can see the picture of Alai Darwaza. Next, a new town, Siri, was built near Delhi. Now, here you can see the picture of Siri. And the Siri fort was also built during the rule of Alauddin Khilji. And here you can see the picture of Siri fort. He also constructed Hauz Khas, a big tank for the royal bath. And here you can see the picture of Hauz Khas. Alauddin was a great conqueror and an efficient administrator. He was a man of determination. His chief aim was the welfare and protection of his subjects. The reforms which he had undertaken show his progressive attitude. He was a religious man, but he did not let religion interfere in the affairs of the state. Alauddin died in the year 1316, and with his death, the Khalji Empire came to an end. With this, we come to an end of the first part of our lesson. I hope you all have understood it well. The remaining portion, we'll complete it in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good day. Thank you.